When Natasha Ryan from Rockhampton, Australia, vanished without a trace, her family feared the worst, and soon authorities charged a suspect in her disappearance and put him on trial. The cops had even managed to extract a confession from the accused. But then something extraordinary happened. The last person anyone expected to see at the trial showed up for testimony. September 1998 was the very last time that anyone had seen schoolgirl Natasha Ryan from Rockhampton in central Queensland, Australia. And news of what she'd been doing before she vanished made her family fear the worst. Witnesses claimed that the young 14-year-old teen had been talking to a man in an alleyway near the local cinema. Then she seemingly disappeared from the face of the earth. And she wasn't the only one. As it turns out, 4 other women had gone missing too. Julie Turner, 39, Beverly Lego, 37, Sylvia Benedetti, 19, and Kara Steinhardt, age 9, had vanished from the small town in Queensland. Unlike Ryan, their bodies were eventually found. Rockhampton residents were terrified. They wouldn't go to the movie theater, and they refused to drive at night. Eventually, everyone in town stopped going out. But cops had one prime suspect in mind. Authorities believed that Leonard Frazier was involved in the disappearances, but they didn't have a lot of solid evidence to convict him of the crimes, and to charge him they would need a confession. Frazier was believed to be a serial killer, and he was already behind bars serving time for the death of a 9-year-old girl back in 1999, but cops believed he was responsible for what happened to all 5 women, including Ryan. Frazier would never get paroled for his crimes, and he was already serving a life sentence. But what they wanted was solid evidence to pin the disappearance of Natasha Ryan on him as well. The cops knew this wouldn't be easy. In November 2000, authorities got their lucky break when he bragged about what he'd done to a fellow prison inmate. But Frazier had no idea that the cops were listening in on everything, and it was all thanks to one man. Cops gave Alan Quinn, Australia's greatest con man, the chance to do something right for a change, and he was happy to do it. So he set out to trick Frazier into confessing where he'd hidden Natasha Ryan and the other women's bodies. Frazier used to be a meat cutter, and everyone knew him as the man with the icy stare. He wasn't the kind of guy you wanted to be alone with, but Quinn was willing to take the risk. Frazier was ultimately convicted of his crime against 9-year-old Kara, but he hadn't confessed to harming Natasha Ryan or the other 3 women who had initially gone missing. And this was something that Quinn was determined to get him to do. Cops hooked Quinn up to a recording device, which they monitored whenever he spoke with Frazier. And for the next 2 years, Quinn persisted until Frazier opened up to him about the horrific details of his crime. The information Quinn got from Frazier allowed Detective Dave Hickey to find the remains of the victims. In fact, Frazier eventually got flown in the governor's personal jet and led the cops through the jungle on the outskirts of Rockhampton, where the women, or what was left of them, awaited. The remains of Julie Turney, Beverly Lego, and Sylvia Benedetti were found. But even though Frazier gave authorities detailed maps of where Natasha Ryan was, police couldn't find her. Fortunately, Quinn's testimony helped Frazier answer for his crime. Halfway through Frazier's trial, the victim he was accused of harming had seemingly risen from the grave when she made a surprising appearance halfway through the trial. This left the court, attorneys, and most importantly, Ryan's grieving family in a state of total shock. It turns out that Ryan was hiding in a wardrobe at the home of her boyfriend, Scott Black, who was 26 years old. His house wasn't too far from where Ryan's mom lived either, and Ryan had apparently been staying there for years. Ryan's sudden reappearance had thrown a wrench in the prosecutor's case against Leonard Frazier. They had no choice but to drop the charges against him, but the charges for his other crimes remained unaffected. Natasha Ryan's family was so convinced that she was no longer alive that they held a memorial service for her. But a tip-off led cops to Black's home where they found Ryan. To confirm her identity, they had her father, Robert, ask her over the phone what her pet's name was, and she gave him the answer right away. Jenny, who's Natasha Ryan's mom, was shocked when Ross Lomonico, the family lawyer, told her that her daughter was alive. She initially thought it was a false alarm, but when she saw her again, she instantly knew. Her daughter was back, and the reunion was as emotional as you can imagine. To avoid a massive police search, Ryan had to live like a recluse inside her milkman boyfriend's home. She also seemingly ignored the numerous appeals her parents had made for her on the news for a safe return. But Ryan has always been troubled. Ryan wasn't an easy child. She had allegedly used controlled substances, and she ran away more than once. She had even told a school counselor that she was pregnant right before she disappeared. But why did she decide to take off this time? Scott Black may not have kidnapped Natasha Ryan, but he lied to authorities, which led to Frazier being falsely accused. So Black pled guilty to perjury and was sentenced to a year behind bars. But prison didn't sever his connection to Ryan. According to rumors, Natasha Ryan eventually married Scott Black during a small ceremony. From there, they went to the Brisbane airport and took a plane to Melbourne. Did her family attend the wedding? Ryan's mother, Jenny Kirwan, and her father, Robert, had also attended the wedding of approximately 35 guests. Everyone seemed eager to leave the past behind in order to celebrate a brighter future. But there was one special kin Ryan was glad was there. Ryan and Black had a son named Corey in 2004, and Corey was there to watch his parents exchange vows. Ryan also allegedly made $200,000 by selling the wedding photos to Women's Day, but she supposedly hasn't repaid the $160,000 that it cost investigators when they went looking for her.